Well, hey and howdy, folks. Here I am, Coach Mike Mack here, yet another episode of the Drive to Thrive podcast. Yes, this is where breakdowns become breakthroughs. Now, today, we're driving into one of the most practical and powerful parts of the divorced dad's journey. It's the dad pad. That's today's episode. But first, let's do something. Season 2 is all about the divorce bomb and the long journey that's ahead for you divorced dads out there on the Divorce Dad Highway. The very first word of this podcast is drive, because we are building out exits and mile markers for the dads out there as they travel this road. Ooh. Now, let's do a quick rear view recap, shall we? Yeah, you gotta look. I'm sitting in the passenger seat, okay? But before we hit today's exit, let's take a quick glance at the rear view mirror and look at the road that's behind us that we've already traveled in season 2. We started with triage. I put on my EMT hat, and we talked about the first 24 hours after that divorce bomb drops. Ooh, the wreckage. And it wasn't just the physical wreckage, it's the wreckage inside that happens. And then we rolled into the money moves, locking down your finances, taking that financial snapshot. And then comes the talk. And the talk having to do with breaking the news to your kids that they now are going to be living in 2 separate places. Now, each of these exits or stops along the way lay the groundwork for something that we're building today. The question for today, how do I make my new place a real home for my kids and me after that divorce bomb drops? Even with finances being tight, emotions are crazy, heavy. This isn't about buying the biggest house or having, an Instagram worthy furniture that you can show off. No, that's not what we're talking about. It's about being able to take whatever space you have, whether it's a full apartment, a huge house, a tiny cabin. Yes, even like I've done, maybe it's a tent in the living room. And you turn the place into what feels like home for both you and your kids. Now, some of these things we're going to talk about today is kind of tough, okay? I lived in a bachelor's mindset for way, way too long, all right? I'm going to be real with you, brothers. I'm not proud of this, okay? When the divorce bomb first hit 20 plus years ago, I didn't unpack all the stuff I needed. I'm going to talk about mental. I had a mental and emotional state that was tough, very tough. I lived out of boxes. In fact, I was homeless for a while, so you can tell that I was a mess, okay? And the places that I lived back then reflected the chaos that was inside of me. And I'll be honest, there was a stretch where I just slipped into full on bachelor pad mode. Now, my mind wasn't thinking about my kids, okay? Back then I was consumed with the loneliness. The empty pizza boxes everywhere. If I had been able to scroll on Facebook back then, I probably would have been doing that. The silence, deafening. My mindset, the inner part of me, made my place feel even less like a home. You know what? My kids, they sensed that too. Look, kids, they can feel it, okay? Kids, they can always sense when a place is temporary. And that's what I had, a temporary bachelor pad. And when that happens, they feel like they're guests in your home and not family. I began to realize if I wanted my kids to feel at home, I had to first unpack me and not just the dishes out of the box, putting them away into the cupboards. Okay? Now, we're going to take a little tour, shall we? We're going to look at the inward rooms that shape the outward div dad pad. Okay? This is where it's going to get real, it's going to get practical and personal. Okay? I want you to picture a place, not just four walls and a roof. Okay? And if you're into construction, you could probably talk about sheetrock and all the imperfections that I'm not into construction, but just picture a place that's in your mind. Okay? We've got some inner rooms that we carry around with us all the time. And if you only set up the outside without tending to the inside, your div dad pad will always feel hollow. Okay, so let's walk through these rooms together, step by step, and let me be the guide for a minute, the tour guide, as if you're sitting there with me as I do so. Now, first off, the living room. It's the front room, the place where you first walk in. When you walk into the living room, what do you see? In your div dad pad, what do you see? For me, you're going to see a chair. No TV for me. There's a table. That's the outward stuff, okay? But inwardly, this room asks the question, are you present for your kids in that room? This is the place where you're going to laugh, to talk, to play games, to do the things. Now, in my case, with no TV, the TV can't do all the talking. In most cases, I would probably, if there was a TV there, let the TV do the talking. Or maybe your living room is kind of bare right now, like mine, with just a chair, a table, a lamp, a little couch. But you know what? Without a TV, maybe there could be some other things like games that the kids like to play. Those are there on the table. My little boy likes to play with his little people. It doesn't matter what the decor is, okay? It just doesn't matter. It matters about being able to make the connection. Next up, let's go to the kitchen. It's where the nourishment happens, right? Your kitchen is probably going to have some plates, some cups, a fridge with whatever you can afford that week. That's the outward stuff. That's the physical stuff. But what about the inward kitchen that we're talking about? Are you feeding your soul? Maybe you're stocking up what I did way back when. I stocked up on anger and resentment, self-pity, depression, all those things. Or are you feeding yourself with something different? Maybe some gratitude. Even starting to be more disciplined. Because just like junk food can wreck your physical body, junk food for your mind can wreck your spirit. And brothers, even if the pantry, the physical pantry, is empty, you can still whip up some pancakes, right? Something simple for Saturday morning, Sunday. It could be a feast, but it's a lot less about what's on the plate. It's what you can place on the plate with love. That's what makes a difference. All right, let's move to the bedroom. Rest and renewal. Outwardly, the bedroom needs to have some sort of bed, not just a pile of clothes or just a mattress on the floor that you haven't bothered to set up at all. It needs to have some preparation to it. If there is a mattress that's on the floor, like in my case, inside a tent, have it be made up. For you, are you resting in bitterness? That's the question right there, is are you allowing yourself to rest, taking anger and bitterness away? Are you able to do that? Or do you climb into bed replaying every argument, everything that's going on between you and your soon-to-be ex or ex? See, renewal only happens when you're able to shut down the noise. And it gives your heart and mind time to heal. Now, if all you got is a futon, put some clean sheets on it. Tuck in your kids at night. Tell them a story. Show them that this is the place that rest happens, even if it's inside of a tent. Now, what about the bathroom? The bathroom is where you clean up. Yes, there's got to be boundaries. But even if it's a bachelor pad, right? We're talking about the div dad pad that we're building. You're going to need the soap and the towels and the shower curtain and the basics for cleaning up. That's on the outside. But what about on the inside? Now, see, this is where you can wash off stuff like shame and guilt. You need to get rid of that stuff. Use the inward soap to cleanse yourself. This is where you draw the boundaries so others don't track dirt on your peace of mind. Have those boundaries. We've talked about in previous episodes about protecting your peace. Brothers, a clean bathroom is important, okay? But on the inside, a clean heart is even more important. Even if the space is small, just having a fresh towel, a toothbrush for your kids, the toothbrush. See, the toothbrush, if you don't have a toothbrush, how are they going to feel like it's home? Have the essentials that your kids use. Whatever it is, the hair stuff, whatever it is. These little things that you do for your kids tells them you belong here. This is your home. Okay. Let's move into something that's I'm not big time familiar with, tools and the garage. Okay. I'm not a big mechanic guy, but this one does hit home for me. Okay. Outwardly, you're going to have a toolbox. I have a toolbox back there in the trunk of the car. Okay. It's for fixing things. I can change the tire. I can change the oil. Okay. But I'm no mechanic. I'm not going to be, when the engine stops working, I'm not tearing down the engine to see what's wrong. That's not me. Okay. But, it's about where you stash your toolbox, your rig, maybe your kids' bikes even. On the inside, where do you keep your mental, emotional tools? Do you have purpose in there? Faith maybe, skills that you can pass on to them? Or is on the inside all cluttered? Cluttered with fear, with doubt, with all those emotions that, quite honestly, get in the way. And if it is, on the inside all cluttered with those things, maybe it's about time we do some housekeeping. When something breaks down in life, you want to be able to know where your tools are, how to use them. All you have in the house is maybe a hammer and a screwdriver. That's still a start. Every tool that you add, both physically and mentally, builds the ability to fix, to guide, to help. You're the dad. You're there to lead, to guide, and to help with your kids. They're going to see you, and you want them to be able to know that they're home with you. Yes, it's going to be different. It's going to be awkward. But as you build your toolbox, you'll be able to use those tools, both on the inside and on the out, to make this Div Dad pad home for you and your kids. All right, next. Oh, here we go. Finances. Let's be honest, brothers. Most of us aren't rolling into some HGTV ready bachelor pad after divorce. Finances are stretched to the limit. You probably got some financial flat tires along the way. The pressure is absolutely real. I know. I've felt it. And the pressure weighs on your heart. It weighs on your soul as much as it does on your accounts and on your wallet, if not more. But here's the truth. It's not about being fancy. It's not about buying all these things. It's about being functional. Your kids don't need fancy stuff, Pottery Barn or whatever the fancy store is in your neighborhood. You know what they need? They need presence. They need safety. A place that feels like home. That's what you can do. All right, so here's a little story from me. I struggled. And I had camping gear. This is when I was in Idaho. I was living in a very small apartment. It was a studio apartment, in fact. It wasn't even a one bedroom. It was basically a living room that was everything. And it was a decent sized studio apartment. And I had my two daughters come over, 14 and 16. And I got to thinking, how am I going to do this? Back then I wasn't perfect. My mind was still, it was tough. But I got the bright idea that I could use a tent inside that studio apartment, and that could be their bedroom. And so that's how I set it up. Air mattresses and all. But they had sheets and pillows and all of those things. To me, it was survival. I was in survival mode. For them, they still remember that. This is now, I was not quite 20 years ago now, because I had been down to Houston homeless, and my daughter, actually, older daughter, helped me to get back up to Idaho. It was after that. It was an adventure for those two. You know, they bragged, hey, it's camping time, indoor camping, and they remembered it. And it was an experience that they really enjoyed. Look, and that's the lesson here. It's not about how much you can spend, okay? It's about how you can frame it, how you can make it fun for your kiddos. That's what's important here. Now, how about some creative div-dad pad hacks? We'll say that fast 3 times. You know, air mattresses. They're camping beds, right? But they can become a mattress inside. They're, what, $30? How about something from the thrift store? You know, bean bags. Bean bags are comfy. They can be there in your hangout zone, out there in the living room. Yeah, outside the tent. What about just dollar store plates and the silverware and stuff to go with it? Well, it's plasticware, but it doesn't have to be expensive. And there could be matching sets. Even a decorated corner, okay? It could just be a corner that you put up your favorite poster from what your kids enjoy. For me, back then, it was, you know, there's a Barbie poster that was my one daughter's favorite. Yes, she was older, but she still was into Barbies. I don't understand it. But that could have been something I could have done back then, is decorate a corner for her. Just when you bring creativity and your presence, you can turn a little into a lot. That's what I want you to know. And when your kids walk in, they're not going to see lack. They don't see that part. You know what they're going to see? They're going to see love. That's what they're going to see. Here it is, right here. Listen to this. Don't measure your dad pad by the square footage. Measure it in memories that you build inside that pad. Whew. All right, how about, let's do a little checklist, okay? I'm all about checklists and kind of going through and looking. Just nice and simple, because, you know, when you're running tired, you're overwhelmed, clarity matters. And if I give you a checklist, you know, these are the non-negotiables that every div dad is going to need in his place. Not to impress. We're not about impressing anything. We're about expressing here. Expressing love, expressing stability and care for our kiddos. Number 1, a bed. Or a creative equivalent, okay? It doesn't have to be fancy. A bed with some sheets and a pillow. 2, hygiene. The basics. Shower curtains, soap, toothbrushes. Their toothbrushes that they use. Towels that they use. That says you belong here. Think about the bachelor thing, right? If you've got some girlfriend that comes over every so often, they begin to think that they belong there in your bachelor pad, because what do they have? A little makeup bag, etc. Okay, see, now that's what I'm saying. The kids need to know that they belong here. Hygiene basics, number 2, is how it makes it a home for them. Number 3, dishes and utensils. Enough for actual meals, okay? Sitting down at the table, even if it's small. For me, it's a coffee table. It's small. But hey, it's the table that we sit around and that we eat. Make mealtime a good thing for the kids. Number 4, food. The food staples. Make sure the fridge is not completely empty. Okay, at least have some milk, some bread, some eggs, some fruit, something simple that they can reach for without asking. It's something that maybe their favorite food in some way or another. My estimation, pancakes are always a great thing. Easy peasy. Number 5, have a fun corner. A place where you can play games. It could be the tent. I've got kids that love arts, love to draw, love to write. My boy loves, little people and playing with his little people. He lines them up. It doesn't have to be expensive, guys. It's the memories of playing that outlast the cost of any toys. For sure. Look, it's your space. Make it into something that says it's you. A chair, a book, a picture. It shows your kids that you're not just surviving. This is not the Drive to Survive podcast, okay? This is the Drive to Thrive. What it does for your kids, it shows that you are thriving by being able to set up your Div Dad pad into something that feels like home for them. The way to do that is start on the inside to get unpacked. This checklist, look, it's not about keeping up appearances. It's nothing about keeping up with the Joneses, the neighbors, etc. It's about creating a baseline of dignity and belonging for you and your kids, even on a shoestring budget. Okay, you can check these boxes and say with confidence, welcome home, kiddos. Welcome home. That's what I wanted you to get to right there. Okay, look. I went from living out of boxes, okay, to finding a way to make my little place a home that the kids could feel like that they belonged. Well, brother, here's the deal. Your Div Dad pad is more than just walls and a roof. It's a message. It's a message that you're sending to your kids. And what message do you want your kids to take? Because are they safe? Do I belong? They're going to ask these questions. They're not going to ask them to you. They're going to feel these things. If it's inviting, if they've got something that's theirs at your Div Dad pad, it's going to tell them that they belong and that they are safe. Unpack the boxes that are inside of you first. Build those inner rooms, the connection, the nourishment, the rest, the boundaries, the purpose. All of those boxes need to be unpacked inside. And once you're able to start working through those, guess what happens with your Div Dad pad? You're going to have a space that echoes your inward values. Because the home is not just where you live. Your home is how you show up. That comes from inside. Now, whether it's a tent in the living room or a cabin like I have now or a small apartment, it's your chance to prove that love and presence beats out money and furniture every single time. Now, as we roll on down the Div Dad highway, consider this exit where you stop living out of boxes and you start living out of purpose, out of passion. And just up ahead, another exit is going to be waiting, next stage of this journey. And if I could remember what the title of the episode is, I would tell you. But hey, this is Coach Mike Mack here. This is your Drive to Thrive podcast. If this episode hit home with you, no, literally, if it hit you to the heart, share it with another divorced dad who's still living out of boxes. And remember, brothers, this convoy, you don't roll alone. Now, this podcast, this Drive to Thrive podcast, it's where breakdowns become breakthroughs. And it can only become breakthroughs if you're not sitting in the passenger seat like I am right now. In order to drive, you got to be in the driver's seat in order to make breakdowns become breakthroughs. Now, until next time, keep driving forward, guys. I love you guys. I love you. Appreciate you. See you on down the road at the next exit.